My beloved child, listen very carefully. Today is not an ordinary day. This very day has been circled in the heavens, marked by God's own hand, and sealed with purpose. Archangel Michael steps forward now, not with comfort alone, but with urgency. This message is not random. It did not find you by accident. It found you because your destiny has reached a divine checkpoint. Something irreversible is happening today. You may feel it already, a strange pressure in your spirit, a quiet restlessness, or an unexplainable pull to stop scrolling. That is not coincidence. That is heaven interrupting your routine. Archangel Michael says, do not treat this moment lightly, because approval is on the line. Today carries a decision, and decisions made today echo louder than you realize. You have been waiting for a sign. You have asked God in silence, am I still chosen? Am I still approved? Did I miss my moment? And heaven answers now, not tomorrow, not later, today. This day is marked for alignment or delay, for confirmation or cancellation. Hear this clearly. God has not withdrawn his love from you. But approval and assignment are not the same thing. Approval follows obedience. Assignment follows alignment. And today is an alignment day. Archangel Michael reveals that there is a divine file with your name on it. It has been open for some time. Angels have been watching. Heaven has been patient. But now the window is narrowing. Not because God is harsh, but because timing is holy. There is something God asked you to release. There is something God asked you to stop tolerating. There is something God asked you to step into, and you delayed. This is not condemnation. This is correction wrapped in mercy. You've been surviving in a season that was meant to activate you. You grew comfortable in what was familiar, even though your spirit knew it was too small. Archangel Michael says, comfort hath been the quiet enemy of your calling. Today is the day that comfort is confronted. Do not misunderstand the warning in this message. God's approval is not canceled because he is angry. It is paused when obedience is postponed. Heaven does not move on human emotion. It moves on divine order. And today, divine order is being restored. This is why distractions tried to stop you from hearing this. This is why interruptions came the moment you pressed play. This is why doubt whispered, this isn't for you. The enemy fears what happens when you hear this all the way through. Because once you hear it, you are accountable. Archangel Michael stands as a warrior, not against you, but for your destiny. He is cutting through confusion, severing false timelines, and exposing what no longer belongs in your life. But he cannot fight battles you refuse to acknowledge. Today is a mirror. God is asking you a question in this very hour. Will you move when I speak, or will you wait until it feels safe? Safety has never been the currency of destiny. Faith is. You were not marked for delay. You were marked for impact. But impact demands obedience before understanding. Many lose approval not because they sin, but because they stall. They keep praying for confirmation while ignoring instruction they already receive. And that is why this message feels heavy, because it carries weight. Archangel Michael says there is a door that only opens today. Not because God is limited, but because seasons expire. Man was daily. Miss the day, and it's spoiled. Destiny works the same way. Do not let fear disguise itself as wisdom. Do not let hesitation pretend to be patience. You know exactly what God has been pressing on your heart. The conversation you've been avoiding. The habit you keep excusing. The step you keep delaying. Heaven hath been waiting for your yes. And today, your yes matters more than ever before. This message is not here to scare you. It is here to wake you. Because once this day passes, the assignment does not disappear, but the ease of entering it does. Grace makes room. Delay makes it harder. Archangel Michael declares, heaven is watching your response, not your intention. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be willing. God is not asking for strength. He is asking for surrender. The approval you desire is already prepared, but it is released through obedience. Right now, something is shifting in the spirit. You may feel exposed, but you are actually being aligned. God is not removing you. He is refining you. Do not skip what comes next. What is revealed after this will confirm exactly what you must do today, not tomorrow, not next week, not someday. Chosen one, hear this with clarity and calm strength. What you are sensing right now is not fear. It is recognition. Something deep within you knows that today is different. Archangel Michael speaks again, not with thunder, but with precision. He says this is the hour where excuses lose their power and truth rises to the surface. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to be realigned. Many people think destiny arrives with fireworks. In truth, destiny often arrives with discomfort. It presses on places you've been avoiding. It challenges patterns you've defended. And it forces you to confront the version of yourself that settled instead of stepped forward. Today exposes that gap, not to shame you, but to close it. You have been praying for God's approval, yet God has been waiting for your permission. Permission to rearrange. Permission to interrupt. Permission to remove what feels familiar but is quietly draining you. Archangel Michael reveals that approval flows freely, but it does not flow blindly. Heaven responds to movement. There is something powerful about today because it is a pivot point. If you move, momentum follows. If you delay, resistance increases. This is why you felt tired without reason, frustrated without clarity, restless without explanation. Your spirit has been knocking on the door of your obedience. Archangel Michael says you were never meant to carry the weight of indecision this long. The longer you stand between two choices, the heavier everything feels. Today is meant to lighten you, but only if you choose alignment over avoidance. Let this sink in. God is not asking you to figure everything out. He is asking you to take the next honest step. Approval is not about performance. It is about posture. A willing heart moves heaven faster than a perfect plan. Some of you have been replaying old mistakes in your mind, thinking they disqualified you. That is a lie. What delays destiny is not failure. It is refusal to move forward. Archangel Michael says heaven has already accounted for your past. What it is waiting on is your present response. Today carries an instruction you already know. It has been repeating in your thoughts, surfacing in quiet moments, returning in prayer. You keep hoping it will change, soften, or disappear. It won't. Because it is not punishment. It is preparation. Understand this clearly. God's approval is not fragile, but assignments are time-sensitive. When you hesitate too long, what was meant to happen with ease begins to require effort. Mercy remains, but momentum shifts. That is why today matters. If this message is resonating, don't keep it to yourself. Engage with it. Let heaven see your response. Take a moment to like this message, share it with someone who needs clarity today, and leave a comment declaring that you are choosing alignment. When you interact, you are not helping a channel. You are making a public decision in the spirit. And if this voice has been confirming what God has already been speaking to you, Make sure you subscribe and stay connected. This is not just content, it is direction. Archangel Michael says there are eyes watching how you respond when truth is presented. Angels take note of obedience, not intentions. Heaven records movement, not wishes. Today, your response is being written into your timeline. Some of you are waiting for peace before you move. But peace comes after obedience, not before. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is movement in spite of it. The door does not open to observers. It opens to those who step forward. This is why procrastination feels spiritual sometimes. It disguises itself as wisdom, timing, or caution. But Archangel Michael exposes it today. He says delay hath been wearing a holy mask, and today that mask is removed. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. But you are being asked to decide. Heaven honors decisiveness. Even a small step taken in obedience releases help you cannot see yet. Notice how this message keeps you focused. That is intentional. Distractions will try to pull you away, because what is coming next brings clarity you cannot ignore. Stay present with this. Hold on. What is revealed next connects directly to the decision God has been waiting on, and you will want to hear it fully. Beloved soul, slow your breath and steady your heart, because what is unfolding now is sacred. Archangel Michael steps closer, and his presence brings clarity, not confusion. He says this moment is not about fear of losing God's approval. It is about awakening to how close you are to receiving it in full measure. Heaven has not pulled away from you. Heaven hath been waiting for you to come into agreement. There is a difference between being called and being positioned. You were called long ago. You felt it as a pull, a burden, a quiet knowing that your life carried weight beyond survival. But positioning requires cooperation. Today is not about earning favor. It is about stepping into alignment so favor can flow without resistance. Archangel Michael reveals that many delays in your life were not attacks, they were buffers. God was protecting you from stepping into destiny prematurely, without the strength or discernment required to sustain it. But now, the buffering season is ending. Training is complete. Awareness has increased. And heaven is asking if you are ready to be trusted with more. This is why your tolerance for certain things has decreased. Conversations that once felt normal now drain you. Environments that once felt safe now feel heavy. Old habits no longer satisfy. The discomfort is not rejection. It is elevation pressing against outdated containers. God is reshaping your discernment. You are beginning to see clearly where compromise crept in. Not sinful compromise, but subtle surrendering of conviction. You silenced your inner voice to keep peace. You delayed obedience to avoid discomfort. And God, in His mercy, allowed time. But now, Archangel Michael says mercy is turning into movement. There is something powerful about divine approval. When it rests fully on a person, doors open without strain. Resistance dissolves. Help appears at the right time. But approval does not sit where truth is ignored. That is why today brings exposure, not of your failures, but of your excuses. This message is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to empower you. Heaven is not asking you to leap blindly. It is asking you to trust what you already know. The instruction you've been avoiding is the very key you've been praying for. Archangel Michael says the reason this feels intense is because it is irreversible. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you hear it, you cannot pretend you didn't. Heaven is honoring you with awareness because awareness marks readiness. Right now, God is not measuring your past. He is measuring your response. Will you harden your heart, or will you soften your posture? Will you rationalize, or will you respond? This is the day your inner resistance is confronted with divine truth. And hear this gently, but firmly: God's approval is not cancelled easily. But prolonged resistance trains your spirit to live beneath what is available. That is why Archangel Michael intervenes now, to interrupt a cycle before it becomes a pattern. You are being repositioned for increase, but increase requires alignment. You cannot carry new oil in old routines. You cannot step into new authority with old permissions. Something must shift, and you already know what it is. Let this be the moment you stop negotiating with God. Archangel Michael declares that if you respond today, acceleration follows. What would have taken years will begin to compress. What felt stuck will loosen. What felt silent will speak again. Amuat alakswumad. Take this as confirmation. You are not late. You are on time, but time-sensitive. This window is grace-filled, but it is still a window. Before this moment passes, seal it. Speak your yes, even quietly. Heaven hears agreement. Type "I receive alignment" in the comments if this message is speaking directly to your spirit. Lesson Code 444 has just been released over those who choose obedience today. This message did not come to you alone. It came through a channel God is using to reach many who feel forgotten, delayed, or unsure. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal donation found in the description, you are sowing light into places still sitting in confusion. I hear the Lord say, as you release oil, I will keep your lamp full. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic response to what God has stirred in you today. What you release here becomes a seed that speaks for you in unseen places. Heaven marks obedience, and generosity is obedience in motion. Do it now, and may God return it to you pressed down, multiplied, and released at the right moment. Beloved one, let your spirit settle, because what comes now is instruction wrapped in reassurance. Archangel Michael does not rush this moment. He stands firm, steady, and deliberate, reminding you that destiny is not entered through panic, but through clarity. The urgency you feel is not pressure from heaven. It is alignment catching up with your awareness. You are beginning to understand that today was never about fear of loss. It was about readiness for responsibility. God does not hand over influence casually. Approval carries weight. Assignment carries consequence. And you are being invited into a level of trust that requires maturity, not perfection. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven had been watching how you respond in private. Not your public faith, not your words spoken around others, but your quiet choices when no one affirms you. Those moments mattered more than you know. They shaped the day. Some of the battles you faced recently were not meant to defeat you. They were meant to show you what still had power over you. Every emotional reaction, every moment of hesitation, every excuse that surfaced, none of it was wasted. It exposed what still needed to be surrendered. This is why clarity feels sharp right now. Truth cuts gently but cleanly. God is not asking you to become someone else. He's asking you to return to who you were before compromise blurred your conviction, before survival mode muted your calling, before you learned to cope instead of confront. Archangel Michael says your destiny was never erased. It was delayed for refinement. What is unfolding now is restoration of authority you gave away slowly, unintentionally, over time. Today, heaven offers it back, but only if you carry it consciously. You may notice that excuses are harder to justify now. The inner dialogue that once comforted you no longer satisfies. That is growth. That is discernment sharpening. That is God lifting the fog. This part of the journey is quiet, but decisive. There may be no outward sign yet, no dramatic shift others can see. But internally, something is locking into place. Your will is aligning with God's will, and that alignment is power. Archangel Michael warns gently, do not rush to explain this season to people who cannot discern it. Not everyone needs to understand what God is doing in you. Some voices will try to dilute your conviction, not because they are evil, but because they are unfamiliar with obedience that costs something. You are learning the discipline of silence. Heaven trusts those who can carry revelation without broadcasting it prematurely. What God is birthing in you requires protection. Speak when led, not when pressured. There is also healing happening beneath the surface. Old disappointments are losing their grip. You are realizing that unanswered prayers were not rejection, but redirection. God was not withholding. He was preparing you to receive without being crushed by the weight of fulfillment. Archangel Michael says endurance has been forged in you quietly. You survived seasons that should have broken you. You adapted. You learned. You stayed sensitive when bitterness tried to take root. That resilience was noticed. Now comes refinement of focus. God is narrowing your attention because distraction will not survive where you are going. You cannot carry everything forward. Some relationships, habits, and commitments must be reevaluated. Not everything that is good is assigned to you. This is not loss. It is clarity. The reason peace has been inconsistent is because you were living between decisions. Once you choose alignment fully, peace stabilizes. It becomes your anchor, not your reward. Archangel Michael declares that heaven is responding to your internal shift. Assistance is being arranged. Conversations will begin to change. Opportunities will appear naturally. Resistance will lessen, not because life becomes easy, but because you are finally moving with divine order instead of against it. Do not despise small confirmations. Destiny often speaks in whispers before it roars. You may feel exposed right now, but you are actually covered. God corrects what He intends to crown. The discomfort you feel is temporary, but the authority you are stepping into is lasting. Let this truth rest in you. Approval is not something you chase. It is something you align with. And alignment is happening now, layer by layer, choice by choice. Archangel Michael says today was the turning point. Not because everything changed instantly, but because you did. And when you change, timelines respond. What unfolds next will give shape to what has just been confirmed, and it will require the calm strength you are learning to walk in now. My dear one, take this moment slowly, because what unfolds now is about stabilization. Archangel Michael speaks with a grounded authority, reminding you that destiny is not sustained by emotion, but by consistency. What you felt earlier was ignition. What you need now is grounding. Fire without structure burns out, but fire with an order becomes light. You have crossed an internal threshold. Something has shifted that cannot be reversed, even if you tried. Your spirit has already said yes, even if your mind is still catching up. Heaven recognizes that yes. Now comes the shaping of it. Archangel Michael reveals that many people lose momentum after moments of clarity because they underestimate what comes next. Alignment invites responsibility. Responsibility demands discipline. This is where destiny becomes practical. God is not only concerned with where you are going, but with how you walk once you begin moving. Speed without direction creates exhaustion. Direction without endurance creates frustration. Heaven is teaching you balance. You may notice that your emotions are quieter now. The intensity has softened into resolve. This is intentional. Emotional highs are good for awakening, but steady conviction is what carries you forward. Archangel Michael says maturity is when obedience no longer needs adrenaline. Some of you are waiting to feel inspired again before acting. But inspiration was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to activate you. Now faith must operate without constant reassurance. This is where trust deepens. Understand this: silence from God does not mean absence. It often means He trusts you to move with what you already know. Parents do not repeat instructions every minute to a child they trust. Heaven operates the same way. There will be moments now where the excitement fades and routine begins. That does not mean you miss something. It means you entered the building phase. Destiny is built quietly. Archangel Michael says the next test is not temptation, but distraction. You will be tempted to scatter your focus, to overcommit, to revisit old patterns under the excuse of balance. Be alert. Focus is protection. God is teaching you to guard your energy. Not everything deserves your emotional investment. Not every request requires a yes. Discernment will save you years of unnecessary delay. You are also being taught patience with yourself. Growth does not erase weakness overnight. Transformation is layered. Do not condemn yourself for still learning. Condemnation slows progress. Correction accelerates it. Archangel Michael reassures you that heaven is not watching for perfection. It is watching for persistence. When you stumble, do not retreat. Adjust and continue. Stopping completely is the only real failure. This season will require honesty. Not public confession, but private truthfulness. You must be willing to acknowledge when something pulls you off course and gently bring yourself back. Alignment is maintained through awareness. You may notice that old temptations feel weaker now. That is because authority has shifted. When alignment increases, attraction to lesser things decreases. Do not romanticize what God has already freed you from. At the same time, new challenges may appear. Do not panic. New levels bring new resistance, not to stop you but to strengthen you. Opposition does not mean you are wrong. Often, it confirms you are advancing. Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience is not dramatic most days. It looks like consistency, restraint, and humility. It looks like doing the right thing when no one applauds. Heaven applauds quietly. You are also being trained to release control. Destiny cannot be micromanaged. Planning is wise, but obsession is not. Leave room for God to surprise you. Flexibility is a sign of trust. If anxiety tries to return, pause and listen. Anxiety often signals that you are trying to carry tomorrow with today's strength. Grace is given daily. Stay present. Archangel Michael says your spiritual authority is stabilizing now. You are learning when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to wait. This discernment will protect your future. Remember, destiny is not a single moment. It is a series of aligned choices. You have made one. Now you must keep making them. Do not rush the process. What God is building in you needs time to set properly. You are no longer asking if you are chosen. You are learning how to live like you are. That is the real transition. What comes next will test your consistency, not your faith. And consistency, once mastered, unlocks longevity. Beloved child, breathe deeply and remain attentive because this phase is about strengthening resolve. Archangel Michael speaks now with a tone of firmness mixed with reassurance. He says the most vulnerable moment after alignment is not the beginning, but the continuation. Many people start well, but few remain steady when consistency is required without constant confirmation. You are entering a stretch where faith becomes practical. There may be fewer emotional surges and fewer obvious signs. This is not loss of connection. It is evidence of trust. Heaven does not hover over those it trusts. It empowers them to walk. Archangel Michael reveals that the enemy rarely attacks head-on at this stage. Instead, he whispers subtle questions. Was this really God? Did this really matter? Are you sure you didn't overreact? These questions are designed to erode certainty slowly. Recognize them for what they are. Certainty does not come from feeling. It comes from decision. You decided to align, and that decision stands even when emotions fluctuate. God is teaching you to anchor yourself in truth rather than mood. Moods change daily. Truth remains. When you wake up unsure, return to what you know, not what you feel. This is also a season where discipline becomes your ally. Small routines now protect big promises later. Prayer that feels ordinary is still powerful. Integrity in unnoticed moments is still seen. Heaven records faithfulness in the mundane. Archangel Michael says, do not underestimate the power of repetition. Doing the right thing again and again trains your spirit to respond correctly without hesitation. This is how spiritual muscle is built. You may notice that people around you respond differently now. Some may pull away. Others may test boundaries. This is not coincidence. Alignment shifts dynamics. When you change, relationships recalibrate. Do not chase what is drifting away. Let discernment guide you. At the same time, new connections may begin forming quietly. Not all support arrives loudly. Some helpers enter subtly, offering wisdom, perspective, or opportunity at the right moment. Pay attention without forcing familiarity. Archangel Michael emphasizes restraint. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every frustration needs expression. Learning when to remain silent preserves authority. Silence is not weakness. It is control. This is also where humility is refined. Growth can sometimes tempt pride, especially when clarity increases. Guard against that. Gratitude keeps you grounded. Remember who brought you here. If this message is helping steady your spirit, engage with it now. Take a moment to like this video so others who are searching for direction can find it. Share it with someone who feels uncertain but cannot explain why. Leave a comment declaring that you are staying aligned, because spoken agreement reinforces internal commitment. And if this channel has been consistently confirming what God is doing in your life, subscribe and stay connected. Staying connected is not about numbers. It is about remaining positioned where clarity flows. Archangel Michael says movement attracts resistance, but resistance also sharpens discernment. Do not interpret challenges as regression. They are part of advancement. Every new level demands new awareness. You are learning to manage your time differently. What once felt urgent now feels unnecessary. What once felt optional now feels essential. This reordering is divine. Let it happen. There may be moments where you feel alone in this process. That does not mean you are unsupported. Often, God isolates to instruct. Noise fades so clarity can increase. Loneliness in transition is temporary. Archangel Michael reminds you that destiny does not unfold in isolation forever. Seasons change. Companions will come. But solitude now strengthens discernment, so you choose wisely later. Be careful not to romanticize past seasons. Nostalgia can distort memory. What you left behind no longer fits who you are becoming. Honor the past without returning to it. You may also feel an urge to rush results. Resist that. Fruit ripens at its own pace. Pulling it really damages its sweetness. What God is growing in you will be revealed at the right time. When doubt tries to creep in, ground yourself in action. Obedience silences doubt faster than analysis ever could. Do the next right thing. Momentum follows obedience. Archangel Michael says heaven is pleased with steadiness. You are not required to impress God. You are invited to trust Him. Trust is shown through consistency. Pay attention to how your inner dialogue is changing. You may notice less self-criticism and more self-awareness. That is maturity forming. Awareness corrects gently without condemnation. Do not neglect rest. Burnout is not a badge of honor. Even warriors rest between battles. Rest renews clarity. As this phase continues, remember that alignment is maintained, not achieved once. Daily choices matter. Small compromises still have consequences. Small obediences still unlock grace. Stay present with this process. Do not rush ahead mentally. What is coming next will require the stability you are building now. Hold on, because the next revelation connects directly to how you sustain what God is preparing to release. Beloved one, remain still for a moment, because what unfolds now is about refinement of vision. Archangel Michael speaks with calm authority, reminding you that clarity is not only about knowing what to do, but also about understanding what no longer deserves your attention. Alignment sharpens focus, and focus reshapes destiny. You are entering a phase where discernment becomes more precise. Things that once felt confusing are beginning to separate into what is essential and what is excess. This is not because life is becoming simpler, but because your perception is becoming clearer. Heaven is training your sight. Archangel Michael reveals that one of the greatest threats to destiny is misdirected energy. Not sin, not failure, but spending strength on things that were never assigned to you. Many people grow tired not because their calling is too heavy, but because they are carrying what does not belong to them. God is teaching you the discipline of release. Release does not always mean walking away dramatically. Sometimes it means loosening your grip. Sometimes it means caring less about opinions that once controlled you. Sometimes it means allowing outcomes you cannot manage to rest in God's hands. You may feel a quiet grief as certain expectations dissolve. Dreams you once imagined may look different now. This is not loss, it is correction. God does not remove desire without intention. He reshapes it so it can be fulfilled without damaging you. Archangel Michael says you are learning to distinguish between good intentions and divine instructions. You have a generous heart. You want to help, fix, support, and rescue. But not every need is your responsibility. Compassion without discernment leads to depletion. The season will teach you boundaries that do not require explanation. You will no longer feel the need to justify why you cannot do everything. Peace will become your filter. If something consistently disturbs your peace, it requires reevaluation. Notice how your reactions are changing. Situations that once triggered anxiety now invite reflection. Conflicts that once consumed your thoughts now pass more quickly. This is emotional authority forming. You are no longer ruled by every stimulus. Archangel Michael affirms that emotional authority is essential for spiritual authority. You cannot lead, influence, or carry weight if every circumstance controls your inner state. God is stabilizing you from the inside out. You may also notice that your prayers are shifting. You are asking fewer questions and making fewer demands. Instead, you are listening more. This is intimacy maturing. Prayer is becoming conversation rather than negotiation. Heaven responds to surrendered listening. At this stage, impatience may try to return in subtle ways. You may not feel rushed, but you may feel eager for visible progress. Be careful not to confuse eagerness with readiness. Visibility increases responsibility. God reveals gradually to protect you. Archangel Michael says trust the pacing. What feels slow is often precise. Atoms create fragile structures. God builds with intention. You are also learning to sit with unanswered questions without anxiety. This is growth. Faith does not require immediate clarity. It requires confidence in God's character. You are learning to trust who God is, not just what He does. There may be moments where you feel unseen, not by God but by people. Recognition may be delayed. Validation may be absent. This is intentional. God is weaning you off external affirmation so your confidence rests in truth, not applause. Archangel Michael reminds you that unseen seasons often produce the strongest foundations. Roots grow in darkness before fruit appears in light. What is hidden now will support what is revealed later. Be attentive to your inner voice. Not every thought is truth. Discernment requires evaluation. Ask yourself whether a thought brings clarity or confusion, peace or pressure. Truth carries calm authority, not frantic urgency. You are also being invited into deeper honesty with God. Not polished prayers, but real ones. God can handle your questions, your fatigue, your uncertainty. Honesty does not offend heaven. Pretending does. Dishonesty strengthens trust. Archangel Michael says the next phase of your journey requires emotional integrity. You must be willing to acknowledge when something affects you instead of suppressing it. Suppression delays healing. Awareness invites it. Do not fear vulnerability in God's presence. Vulnerability there becomes strength everywhere else. As your vision refines, distractions will stand out more clearly. You will notice how certain habits pull you off course, even if they seem harmless. Pay attention. Small leaks sink large ships. This is not about restriction. It is about preservation. God is protecting what He is building in you. You may sense that your priorities are reorganizing. Time feels different. What you once rushed for no longer feels urgent. What you once postponed now feels important. This internal reordering is divine alignment in motion. Archangel Michael assures you that you are not losing yourself. You are shedding layers that were added to survive, not to thrive. The truest version of you is emerging. Remain patient with this process. Refinement is quiet, but powerful. It does not announce itself loudly. It works steadily, shaping perception, response, and desire. Stay present. Stay receptive. What comes next will ask you to apply this refined vision in practical ways, and the clarity you are gaining now will guide you without confusion. Beloved child, receive this moment with reverence, because Archangel Michael now speaks about activation, not preparation, not alignment, not refinement, but movement that begins to show itself in the natural world. What has been forming quietly within you is ready to express outwardly, and this is where many feel both excitement and hesitation at the same time. You may sense a subtle urgency returning, but it is different from before. This urgency is not anxious. It is focused. It does not shout, it nudges. Archangel Michael says this is the sound of readiness. Heaven does not rush you, but it does invite you forward when timing aligns. You are beginning to notice opportunities that were invisible before. Conversations carry new weight. Ideas surface with unusual clarity. Doors seem slightly more open than they were. None of this is accidental. Alignment has shifted your awareness, and awareness changes what you can access. At this stage, obedience becomes visible. Faith that once lived only in prayer now asks for expression through action. This does not mean dramatic moves or risky leaps. It means intentional steps taken with clarity rather than fear. Archangel Michael reveals that destiny often unfolds through ordinary decisions made with extraordinary faithfulness. The next step may look simple, even unimpressive, but heaven measures impact differently than people do. Small acts done in alignment carry spiritual weight. You may feel exposed during this phase. When movement begins, visibility increases, and with visibility comes vulnerability. Understand this clearly. Vulnerability is not danger when you are aligned. It is evidence that growth is occurring. Some of you will be tempted to delay again, telling yourself you need more confirmation. But confirmation has already been given. Repeated confirmation is not always faith. Sometimes it is fear disguised as wisdom. Archangel Michael gently warns not to confuse caution with obedience. God trusts you more than you realize. This is also where resistance may reappear, not internally, but externally. People may question your decisions. Circumstances may test your resolve. Delays may occur. Do not interpret these as signs to stop. Resistance often appears when movement threatens old structures. Archangel Michael says stand firm without becoming rigid. Flexibility does not mean compromise. It means trusting God to adjust your path without abandoning your direction. You are also learning to act without explaining yourself. Not everyone needs to understand your obedience. Explanations are often attempts to seek permission. You already have heaven's permission. As movement begins, remember to stay grounded. Do not overextend. Do not rush to prove anything. Let consistency speak. Fruit takes time to mature, even after the seed breaks ground. You may notice joy returning in quieter ways. Not excitement, but contentment. Peace that does not depend on outcomes. This is a sign that you are moving from striving into trust. Archangel Michael affirms that heaven is now responding to your actions, not just your intentions. Angels are assigned to paths that are walked, not merely planned. Movement activates assistance. Be attentive to timing. Some steps require patience even as movement begins. Acting too early can be as harmful as acting too late. Discernment remains essential. You are learning to balance courage with wisdom. Courage moves you forward. Wisdom keeps you aligned. There is also an invitation here to mark this moment spiritually. When you acknowledge what God is doing, you anchor it. Heaven responds to recognition. Agreement strengthens activation. Type "I step forward" in the comments if you feel this shift taking place within you. Blessing code 888 is being released now over those who move with clarity and courage. What you are receiving is not meant to stay contained. God is using this space to reach hearts that are still hesitant, confused, or weary. When you support this mission through super thanks, channel membership, or PayPal donation found in the description, you are helping this message travel where light is needed most. I hear the Lord say, as you sow into movement, I will move on your behalf. This is not a casual act. It is a prophetic alignment with what God is already stirring in you. Your giving becomes a seed that accelerates impact beyond what you can see. Do it now, and may heaven respond to you with open doors, steady provision, and peace that guards every step you take. Beloved one, remain attentive, because what unfolds now is about endurance with wisdom. Archangel Michael speaks with steady authority, reminding you that movement has begun, but movement must now be sustained. Starting is powerful, but continuing is what seals destiny. This phase is not loud, yet it is decisive. You may notice that after stepping forward, life did not instantly become easier. This is not a sign of misalignment. It is a sign that you have entered real territory. Destiny is not protected by comfort. It is protected by conviction. What you are building now requires resilience, not excitement. Archangel Michael reveals that many people retreat after activation because they expect immediate confirmation. But heaven often confirms through stability, not spectacle. The absence of drama is not absence of God. It is often evidence that God is trusting you to walk without constant reassurance. This is where perseverance becomes sacred. You are learning to stand in decisions without rehearsing alternatives. Doubt may try to revisit you, not as fear, but as curiosity. What if you chose differently? What if you waited longer? These thoughts are distractions, not discernment. Discernment brought you here. Distraction tries to pull you back into indecision. Archangel Michael says guard your mind during this phase. Not every thought deserves attention. Thoughts that we can resolve should be acknowledged and released, not entertained. Strength grows where focus remains steady. You may also notice subtle fatigue, not exhaustion, but weariness that comes from sustained effort. This is normal. Even righteous work requires rest. Do not confuse the need for rest with the desire to quit. Rest restores clarity. Quitting erases progress. God is teaching you sustainable faith. This season invites you to simplify. Complexity drains energy. Overthinking slows momentum. The more aligned you become, the simpler your decisions will feel. You will begin to recognize what matters quickly and let go of what does not. Archangel Michael emphasizes consistency over intensity. Doing a little with faith every day builds more than doing a lot once with emotion. Heaven values faithfulness more than bursts of passion. You may feel tempted to compare your progress with others. Resist this. Comparison distorts perspective. You do not know the full journey of anyone else. Your path is tailored, precise, and purposeful. What looks slow to you may be perfectly timed. There may also be moments of silence from people you expected support from. Do not internalize this. Support often shifts as seasons change. Some people were meant to encourage you to start, not to walk with you through every mile. That does not diminish their role or your path. Archangel Michael reminds you that God often removes external reliance so internal strength can develop. When affirmation fades, conviction must remain. You are also learning to manage expectations. Not every step will feel meaningful. Some days will feel ordinary. But ordinary obedience accumulates extraordinary outcomes. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. Be cautious of impatience disguised as ambition. Ambition that runs ahead of wisdom creates unnecessary strain. Allow God to set the pace. He sees what you cannot. You may also feel a deeper sense of responsibility now. Your choices carry more weight. This is not pressure, it is maturity. Authority always comes with accountability. God does not give influence without first teaching stewardship. Archangel Michael says this is where character solidifies. How you respond when things are slow matters. How you treat people when you feel stretched matters. Integrity during endurance shapes the future more than talent ever could. This phase may also expose areas where you still seek control. When outcomes are uncertain, the desire to manage everything intensifies. Release that. Control limits trust. Trust invites guidance. You are learning to act while allowing God to direct. This balance is wisdom. If frustration arises, pause before reacting. Ask what the frustration is revealing. Often it points to unmet expectations rather than unmet promises. God fulfills promises in His timing, not ours. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing you are doing in obedience is wasted. Even actions that seem small are being recorded. Heaven does not forget faithfulness. There may be days where you feel invisible. Do not let that discourage you. Roots grow in hidden places. Visibility without roots leads to collapse. God is ensuring depth before exposure. You are also learning to celebrate quiet progress. Not every victory needs announcement. Some victories are internal and sacred. Honor them privately. As endurance builds, confidence will stabilize. You will notice less internal debate, less need to revisit decisions. This is evidence that alignment is becoming natural rather than forced. Archangel Michael says you are no longer trying to become aligned. You are learning how to remain aligned. This is a significant shift. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. The next phase will invite you to reinforce what you've built through commitment and declaration, and the steadiness you cultivate now will determine how much you can carry next. Beloved child, listen with focus now, because Archangel Michael speaks about consolidation. This is the phase where what you have learned, endured, and activated begins to lock into place. Destiny is not only about movement forward. It is about strengthening what you are standing on so nothing collapses under pressure. You may feel less emotional now than at the beginning, and that is intentional. God is shifting you from motivation to conviction. Motivation fluctuates. Conviction remains. Heaven wants you anchored, not excited one day and uncertain the next. Archangel Michael reveals that this is where many people unconsciously drift. Not backward, but sideways. They remain busy, active, and involved, yet slowly move off-center. This is why consolidation matters. You are being taught to check alignment regularly, not just once. Pay attention to your inner signals. When peace withdraws, it is often a signal to pause and realign, not to push harder. Pushing without peace creates strain. Moving with peace creates momentum. You are learning to recognize the difference between pressure and purpose. Purpose may challenge you, but it does not suffocate you. Pressure often comes from expectations that were never assigned by God. Release those expectations now. Archangel Michael says it is time to reinforce boundaries. As progress becomes visible, demands increase. People may want access to your time, energy, or attention. Discernment is essential. Saying no to what is unassigned protects yes for what is ordained. This phase also strengthens your spiritual authority. Authority does not come from position, but from alignment maintained over time. When you consistently choose truth over convenience, authority grows quietly, but powerfully. You may notice that old insecurities try to resurface, not because they regain power, but because they are being exposed one last time. Do not wrestle with them. Acknowledge and release them. They no longer define you. Archangel Michael reminds you that identity precedes assignment. When you know who you are, what you do carries clarity. Confusion often comes from trying to perform before settling identity. You are settling now. This is also where gratitude becomes a stabilizer. Gratitude keeps your heart soft and your perspective clear. It reminds you how far you have come without anchoring you in the past. Gratitude fuels humility. If this message hath been grounding you, engage with it now. Like this video so it reaches others who are quietly seeking clarity. Share it with someone who needs strength for consistency, not just inspiration. Leave a comment declaring that you are remaining aligned, because spoken agreement reinforces spiritual commitment. And if this channel has been walking with you through these confirmations, subscribe and stay connected. This is not about hype. It is about staying positioned where direction flows consistently. Archangel Michael says staying connected to truth protects you from drifting into isolation. Isolation weakens discernment. Connection strengthens it. You may also notice that your prayers are becoming simpler and more confident. You are no longer asking God to prove himself. You are trusting him to lead. This trust changes how you listen. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels secure. There will be moments now where nothing seems to be happening. Do not panic. Stillness is not stagnation. Sometimes God consolidates internally before advancing externally. Foundations are strengthened in stillness. Be cautious of impatience disguised as productivity. Doing more does not always mean progressing. Sometimes the most productive thing is to remain obedient where you are until released to move. Archangel Michael says obedience without applause is one of the highest forms of faith. When you do the right thing without recognition, heaven takes note. You are also learning to manage spiritual momentum responsibly. Haste leads to oversight. Wisdom slows you enough to see clearly. There may be days where you question if this path is worth it. Those questions do not mean you are weak. They mean you are human. When they arise, return to what God has already confirmed. Do not reopen settled decisions. Remember, destiny unfolds through layers. Each layer must be secure before the next is added. God is not delaying you. He is strengthening you. Archangel Michael assures you that what you are building now will outlast emotional seasons. This is legacy work, not temporary achievement. Stay attentive to your inner alignment. Adjust quickly when needed. Correction early prevents damage later. Before you move on mentally, pause with this. What is coming next brings a deeper sealing of what God has been doing, and it connects directly to how you carry authority forward. Hold your focus here. The next revelation brings completion to what has been forming. Beloved one, remain attentive and steady, because Archangel Michael now speaks about sealing. This is not the excitement of beginning, nor the tension of endurance, but the quiet authority that comes when something is settled in the spirit. What God has been shaping in you is now being secured so it cannot be easily shaken. You may notice a deeper calm within you. Not the calm that comes from everything going right, but the calm that comes from knowing where you stand. This is spiritual grounding. When storms come, they may still touch you, but they no longer move you. Archangel Michael reveals that sealing happens when decisions stop being debated internally. You no longer rehearse old questions. You no longer revisit choices that God already confirmed. This is not stubbornness. It is maturity. You are learning to stand without constantly looking back. At this stage, temptation changes form. It is no longer obvious or dramatic. It comes subtly, through distraction, overconfidence, or neglect. The enemy does not always try to pull you away. Sometimes he tries to make you careless. Stay alert without becoming anxious. God is teaching you reverence for what he has entrusted to you. Destiny is not casual. Calling is not a hobby. What you carry requires honor. Honor is expressed through consistency, humility, and obedience when no one is watching. You may feel a stronger sense of responsibility now. Your words carry more weight. Your choices affect more than just you. This is not pressure. It is stewardship. God increases responsibility only where faithfulness has been proven. Archangel Michael says sealing also involves separation. Not isolation, but clarity about who has access to you. Everyone cannot speak into your life. Everyone cannot influence your direction. Discernment now becomes protective rather than reactive. You are learning to listen carefully. not just to voices around you, but to the quiet check within your spirit. That inner check is one of God's greatest gifts. Do not ignore it. When something feels misaligned, pause and pray before proceeding. This phase may feel quiet, but it is powerful. Many of the most important things God does are done silently. He does not announce every shift. He secures them. You may notice that your desire for validation has decreased. You are less concerned with being seen and more concerned with being right in alignment. This freedom is significant. When validation loses power, obedience gains strength. Archangel Michael affirms that heaven trusts you with silence now. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every revelation needs to be explained. Some things are meant to be carried privately until God says otherwise. There is also a deepening of patience taking place. You are no longer in a hurry to arrive. You understand now that arrival is not a destination, but a continual walk. This understanding protects you from disappointment. You may still face challenges, but they feel different. They no longer threaten your identity. They test your application. This is progress. Identity is settled. Practice is being refined. God is also teaching you to recognize His voice more clearly. You are beginning to distinguish between divine instruction and emotional impulse. This discernment saves time, energy, and unnecessary detours. Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience does not eliminate opposition, but it does eliminate confusion. You may not always know how something will unfold, but you will know you are where you are supposed to be. As healing continues, peace becomes your indicator. Not comfort, not ease, but peace. Peace does not mean absence of challenge. It means presence of assurance. When peace remains, continue. When peace lifts, pause. You are also learning to respond rather than react. The action is driven by emotion. Response is guided by wisdom. This shift will protect your future more than you realize. There may be moments where you are tempted to relax your discipline because things feel stable. Do not abandon what brought you here. Stability is maintained through continued alignment, not through assumption. Archangel Michael says what is sealed must still be guarded. Guard your thoughts. Guard your time. Guard your focus. What God establishes is valuable, and valuable things require care. You are not being watched with suspicion by heaven. You are being trusted. Trust changes how God works with you. Instructions become subtler. Guidance becomes quieter. Responsibility increases. This does not mean God is distant. It means relationship has matured. Take a moment to recognize how far you have come. Not with pride, but with gratitude. Gratitude honors God and keeps your heart open. As the sealing completes, prepare your spirit. What comes next is not correction, not endurance, but completion. The final release carries authority, blessing, and confirmation for those who remained aligned. Stay present. Stay grounded. The final words that follow bring closure to what began as a warning and now stands as a fulfilled alignment. Beloved child, receive these final words with reverence, because Archangel Michael now speaks completion. What began as a warning has become alignment, and what required endurance has now been sealed with authority. This is not an ending of your journey. It is the closing of a cycle that prepared you to walk forward without confusion. You may feel a quiet certainty settling within you. Not excitement, not urgency, but knowing. This is the mark of spiritual maturity. When God finishes a work in you, He does not leave you restless. He leaves you established. Archangel Michael declares that heaven has witnessed your response. Not just to this message, but to the internal shifts you made along the way. You chose awareness over avoidance. You chose obedience over delay. And because of that, approval is not canceled, it is confirmed. This does not mean every challenge disappears. It means challenges no longer define your direction. You are no longer led by pressure, fear, or indecision. You are led by clarity. God has not rushed you, and He has not abandoned you. He has walked you carefully through preparation so that what He places in your hands will not crush you. Many ask for blessing without realizing blessing requires capacity. Capacity has now been built. Archangel Michael says you are entering a season where obedience feels natural rather than forced. The resistance that once exhausted you has lost its grip. You are no longer negotiating with truth. You are living it. There will be moments ahead that test this alignment, but they will not undo it. You now recognize misalignment quickly. You correct sooner. You listen more carefully. These are signs of growth. You are also learning that destiny does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it unfolds through steady faithfulness, quiet decisions, and unseen consistency. Heaven honors this more than visible success. Let this truth settle. You are approved to move forward, not because you earned it perfectly, but because you responded honestly. God does not bless perfection. He blesses surrender. Archangel Michael affirms that what was delayed is now unlocked. Timelines are adjusting. Opportunities will align naturally. Assistance will arrive without striving. You do not need to chase what God has released. Walk forward, and it will meet you. You may still have questions, but they no longer paralyze you. You may still feel cautious, but you are no longer afraid. Fear has lost authority over your decisions. This is the posture of someone trusted by heaven. As you move forward, remember this season. Remember how alignment felt. Remember the peace that came when you stopped resisting truth. Let this memory guide you when future crossroads appear. You are not returning to old cycles. You are not repeating former mistakes. You are carrying wisdom forward. Archangel Michael says the mantle you carry now is lighter than before, because you stopped carrying what was never yours. That release made room for grace. Before this message closes, seal it intentionally. Type "I walk in approval" in the comments if you receive this completion in your spirit. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over those who step forward with clarity and obedience. And now, hear this final word flowing naturally from everything you have just received. This message did not come to you alone. It came through a mission God is using to awaken, align, and restore many who were standing at the edge of delay. I hear the Lord say, "Those who help carry my word will never lack direction or provision." When you support this mission through super thanks, channel membership, or PayPal donation found in the video description, you are not giving to a platform. You are sowing into lives that are one message away from alignment. This is a prophetic act, not a casual gesture. As you release seed, heaven releases supply. Obey this prompting now, and may God multiply your obedience, guard your steps, and establish the work of your hands with favor that speaks even when you are silent.